Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Preston M. Smith. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Living Artist Podcast. I'm Preston M. Smith, at PMS Artwork everywhere on internet land and socials. I want to thank you for landing on this podcast. Whether you're a professional artist, just getting started in the art world, a collector of art, or just consider yourself a creative person, this podcast has something for you. I like to think of it as a fun way to rant and talk to other creative people about living the life of an artist, surviving and getting ahead in the art world, and enjoying your life. But most importantly, not waiting until you're dead to make it happen. All right, let's get started.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are going to sit and meditate on the power of silence. So we are just going to sit here and do nothing for a brief while. Just slip into nothingness and surrender to the present moment. We will begin now.
Eckhart, I have a question.
Please refrain from talking and just ease your mind into a state of silence. Good.
Yeah, but I'm not really sure what I'm supposed
I
to
think you will find that if you just relax and quiet the inner thoughts, you will find peace in this moment.
Yeah, but I'm having a hard time figuring out to do something.
Please, shut the up.
Tipper, Eckhart. I knew I could make you lose it. So long, suckers.
I think we all knew that was coming. If anybody can make Eckhart lose it, it would be Mumford. But today we are truly going to be talking about the power of shutting the fuck up. That's right. No bleep necessary for me. I think we would have maybe upset a few people if we had Eckhart actually drop the F-bomb. But I'm not sure. Maybe it would be wonderful and funny and humanizing. But anyway, here we are back at the podcast, and we have definitely talked about the power of silence a bit in the past, and the power of, doing less, and the power of leaving things up to the imagination a bit and being, a mystery. Like, for example, the old stars used to not do interviews because they wanted to have their public and private persona separate so they could be and remain a mystery, which was a little bit more powerful when people saw them on the screen, because then they would leave it up to the imagination of what they were really like in their real lives. And then they would come and see them on the big screen and fantasize about how, their wonderful lives were. And now everything's the exact opposite. We know everything, warts and all, about everybody all the time. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast today, because I do think there is power in shutting the fuck up, or silence, if you want to call it that. From this point on, maybe we'll call it silence. But what do I mean by that? Well, I think a lot of people nowadays, and you see it all the time, there is this kind of need and obsession with having to get in your ear and tell you your opinion all the time. And yeah, this can be political, and this can be, it can be a group mindset of like, oh, I need to tell you what you're doing to me. I need to tell you why I'm aggravated by what you did. And I need to tell you why I also feel this way. And I need to tell you what the best routines are to have. And I need to tell you why you shouldn't be eating that. And I need to be so on and so forth until we want to vomit. And, yes, I do have a podcast, and I do, try to give advice a bit here and there, mainly just talk about, what I've experienced and how I feel about stuff. And you can take it or leave it. I never really try to be too prescriptive or like, you have to do this, otherwise you will fail. I hate that. And, that's something that I've tried to avoid. Now, how can we use the power of silence or shutting the fuck up? How can we use that to our advantage in many ways? Well, I'll tell you. One of the ways that we can use that power is in, your social media presence. Maybe you can use it as a like, keep your head down. Maybe you can post your work, but maybe you don't need to be shouting into the abyss all the time or shouting for attention. Maybe there's a little bit of power in restraint. That's something I've been trying to exercise and hone a bit with having this disease. I don't think, I've really had a lot of problems with being on social media and interacting with people because, it's been life-threatening, and I've had a lot of problems with my nervous system and, trying to interact with people. So I've just decided to kind of leave that and take a back seat on social media and just, put my work out there when I'm able to do it, which is a lot less nowadays, but I put my work out there. I will put my stuff up there on these art marketplaces, and I will try to sell my work, and I will, just kind of be in the background a bit, letting my art speak for itself, which is something I always wanted to do. Now, I have laid the foundation for that. I don't think everybody can always just do that if you're new on the scene and just let your work speak for itself. You might need to be a little more vocal, but I think there is a power in once you've laid the foundation in kind of letting the work do the talking for you and not always screaming into the abyss, not always screaming for attention, not always feeling like you need to write something. I think story is very important, but I also think we need to be tasteful with it. We're always trying to find ways to hone our persona a little bit and hone the way we're perceived with our art and, individually as artists. And one of the ways that we can do that is by tweaking these little things, like knowing when to be vocal, knowing when to shut the fuck up, knowing when to kind of like let the work speak for itself. I think these things are all very important, tools and skills that we can hone. But I like doing that a bit because it does allow me to kind of focus in on the stuff that really matters to me. And yes, it is a little bit out of necessity. I think we can use this as a tool to calm our nervous system. If you're having anxiety, if you're having problems, you can choose when to tone it down a little bit, not have to feel the need to always be dropping your story or what happened to you today or what's going on in your head or why you agree with this policy or you're so angry about something you saw in the news. You can maybe just tone that down a little bit. Maybe it's going to help your nervous system too. Maybe it's going to help you quiet that inner voice in your head that's always chattering and allow you to get more work done in the studio. I think that's important. But how else can we use this? Well, a lot of times, you'll see these shows or talks or panels and things like this, and there's always this need. It was funny because I was listening to Maria Bamford talk about how she was on one of these panels, and she's like, don't put me on these panels because I will never interrupt anybody. I will never let my voice be known. And she said she did a panel one time and she was on there the whole time and she didn't say one thing. She was just kind of sitting in between people shaking her head. And I think that's kind of funny, but it's also kind of beautiful. I'm sure she probably thought she was doing the wrong thing, but in some ways, I think it's okay. You don't always have to be like, well, I'm here, so I have to make my presence known and I have to just, spew a bunch of bullshit, even if I don't really have anything to say about it. No, I think it's okay to not have anything to say about something. Or if somebody said something better than you, you don't have to just piggyback on that and go, yeah, I agree. And this is why, and I'm going to take this a step further. Sometimes it's okay to just let that be said and then let it sit there, let it hang. And Maria Bamford said the check cleared anyway. So that's great. A little less work for you to have to do. So, we do a lot of stuff with this. We hear a lot of people talking. I've talked a little bit about being brief and being to the point, being succinct with your point. If you're going to talk about your work, just get into the nitty gritty of it. Hone in on what you're trying to say. Almost think of it like an elevator pitch. In Hollywood, you'd have like 20 minutes in the elevator with a movie executive or something, or a TV show executive, and you'd have to just pitch them something very succinctly, without the nerves, and you just have to get to the point and then be done in 20 seconds, get out. I think there's a beauty in that too. It's not necessarily silence or shutting the fuck up, but it is just, not being overly didactic or having, diarrhea of the mouth, because nobody really wants to hear that. Everybody's busy. And especially if you're talking to certain people, you want to just get in and get out and leave a little bit to the imagination. So that's not necessarily completely shutting the fuck up, but it is being choosy with your words and just getting down to the meat and potatoes of it. I think one other way to talk about the power of shutting the fuck up, I know I said I was going to say silence, but it's too much fun to say. So I think one of the other things that is very powerful about shutting the fuck up is there's a lot of power in that, just being able to kind of be rooted in the fact that you don't need to say anything, that you are the calm amidst the storm, that you are confident in yourself. You're confident in just being there, just being a human being, being an artist who's there at a show, for example. You don't need to go and just be like, I'm going to bowl everybody over with, my personality. And there's a time for that. That's great. Like, I'm not saying, if that's valid to you, if that's who you are, by all means express it. I would never tell anybody to not be who they are. But I think there are some times when people are just nervous and they feel like, well, I'm nervous. I got to do something with this nervous energy. I think that is the time that we can learn to fall kind of back into ourselves and be like the tree that is rooted deep in the ground, that's still like the Eckhart at the beginning. Just root yourself in the present moment. I think there is power in that. And if you can really work on exercising this, it's freeing, because I think a lot of people just feel like they have to constantly be talking, or like, I got to win people over with what I have to say. Well, no. Maybe you can win people over by being that calm presence. You can just be there. You can be rooted. You can be confident in the fact that you don't need to always be, saying everything that comes to your mind, or being overly didactic, or whatever that manifests to you as a way of like expressing your inner thoughts or your inner anxiety. Just being calm and being present and being rooted, there's a power to that. There's a power to that in arguments when people are like, they're like, I have to tell you this. And there's a power to that, just listening, rooting yourself in the moment, just stopping talking, listening to the other person, really giving them an active, listen where you're holding space for them. And then just, maybe you don't say anything. Maybe you're just sitting there rooted in that moment. And I have a problem with that. I like to talk. When there's an argument, I really like to talk and try to solve issues, but I try and I strive to be better at this. So, we're always working out issues with ourselves also in these podcasts, but I think it really does speak to a broader audience, because I think we all have that, especially nowadays with the pressure of social media and reality television and having this personality, having this larger than life personality, having your art be larger than life. I have to get out there and I got to beat you over the head with what I'm trying to say or what I'm trying to do with my art. Well, no, maybe you could be that person who differentiates yourself by being that calm presence, by being that confident presence. I think that is something that we can all explore. And maybe it's not you all the time, but maybe it gives you a moment to pause and go, when can I use this in my life? When is it appropriate for me to be like this? And maybe, I can find a way to balance my nervous system even in public, like I do sometimes, by just taking the deep breath, taking it in, long exhale, looking around, looking at your surroundings, looking at all the people chattering away, and just going, you know what? It's okay. Me being here, my art being here is good enough. That is okay. And I think you'll find that people always, like everything, these dualities, I think you'll find that people gravitate to you more when you are rooted in that strong present moment and just in yourself, being rooted in yourself, being rooted in the ground, being rooted in place and being confident. You will ironically attract more people to you, because people want to be around that calm presence. People want to be around somebody who's confident, and people want to buy art that does have its own strength and presence and confidence too. It's like this art speaks for itself. It is powerful. It doesn't have to hit you over the head with it. Yeah. So in a world of constant screaming for attention, we can really strive to be and have our art strive to be the calm amidst the storm. I think you will find that is very unique nowadays. So much stuff is being about getting your attention, clickbait, all these sound bites, making you feel fear. The news is making you feel fear. The headlines are making you feel fear. The local weather is making you feel fear. Like it was like the fires. Oh, the fires are gone now. Oh, we get a little rain on the weekend. Oh, now it's fire to flood damage. And I know we had fear of mudslides and all that, and that's valid and real. But I do think there is this angle of like, how can we get people's attention now through fear? Well, how can we get people's attention through calm and peace and presence and shutting the fuck up? How can we really though? Because I think you will find it's maybe one of the only ways now that you really can differentiate yourself is by being that calm presence, by being the person who knows when, not always, but knows when to be silent and knows when to use silence to their advantage. So take this home and think about it a little bit. How can you apply this to your own life? Whether it's to, focus in on your art more, or whether it's to calm your nervous system, or whether it's to differentiate yourself from other artists or other people who are screaming into the abyss or other social media influencers. Find ways that you can employ an element of silence and an element of confidence in being silent. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think in a podcast about silence, there has been way too much talk and chatter. So we're going to leave it at that. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, feel free to leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I am shouting out people, reading their reviews and shouting out people who leave a positive review. So, if you want to do that, have at it. Apple Podcasts is waiting for you. In the meantime, let's all be confident in ourselves, be rooted in who we are as artists and people. Yeah, and let's treat everybody how we would want to be treated. So that is it for the podcast today, everybody. We will see you next week on the next episode. Take care of yourselves. Oh yeah, and one more thing.
Need I say it again to drive my point home?
Well, it would be kind of funny.
Yeah, Eckhart, what was it you said again?
I will not be baited into saying fuck. Oh, fuck. I said it again.
That's all, folks. See you next time.
This has been the Living Artist Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I just want you to know that I appreciate you being here, and I'm grateful to be in your ears. Your art and creative life on this planet is meaningful, so thank you for sharing it with me. If you like this podcast, whatever platform you're listening to it on, please subscribe and share it with your friends. You can also leave me a positive review to show your support. This helps me to reach more people with the algorithmic magic and keep the show going strong. If you want to see more of what I do and check out the art that I create, you can visit my website at www.pmsartwork.com or follow me on social media everywhere at PMS Artwork. That's it for now. See you back here next time.